Ascent Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Authenticity, Identity, and Being Yourself at Work by Harvard Business Review. Narrated by Christopher Douyard. Introduction. Authenticity and the Power of You by Madison Butler. It took me 25 years to know the meaning of my name and to recognize the sound of my own voice. During the formative years of my life, I believed that the authentic version of myself was the weakest part of myself. For so long, my name sounded like something from an unspoken language when it left my mouth. I followed my name with question marks, unsure of who I was. Was I the parts I showed the world, or the things that haunted me as I tried to sleep at night? Was I the best things I've ever done, or the accumulation of my worst mistakes? I was all of these things. I am a black, queer, neurodivergent woman, and that combination is my superpower. But for a long time I viewed these things as weaknesses. I was told that I had to be anyone but myself in order to be seen as worthy. I tried at every turn to run from myself. I straightened my hair until it fell out, changed my voice, dressed the part, loved who I thought I was supposed to love, except myself. In my early 20s, my fear of who I truly was led me to situations that put me in danger, because I was unwilling to see the value in my own life, body, and identity. It took almost dying for me to see the heart of who I was, and to be open to meeting myself for the first time. Meeting myself was like meeting the love I had always chased, and finding the friendship I had always searched for. What if I told you the parts of yourself that you feel shame about are the most powerful parts of you? Would you believe me? A complete stranger in the lines of a book. Who am I? This question lives in the back of many people's minds, slipping further from consciousness year to year as we learn to assimilate to the wants of the world around us. But knowing yourself is more than knowing your favorite foods or your favorite childhood memories. We are all made of complex identities, experiences, and lenses that impact how we navigate the spaces we inhabit. From a young age, so many of us, especially women, people of color, LGBTQ+ individuals, and any other identities that are not in the majority, are told that to be valuable, we must change. So we morph into what we think our parents want, our teachers want, our organizations want, our society wants. Every day stepping further from our true selves. We rarely have time to ask, who am I really? Who do I want to be? Authenticity is who we are at our core, the things that make us whole, the things that make us scream into the void, the love that fills our bellies. We are not compartmentalized beings. We are the sum of all our parts. We are our identities, our values, our traumas, our happiest memories, and our worst moments. And we deserve to honor all of these parts, even the ones that have been living in the shadows. Authenticity at work. In recent years, companies have adopted the concept of authenticity as a culture-related buzzword. They have used the concept to hire new candidates or have put it into their core values without a full exploration of what it means. They try to allow employees to be comfortable, as long as people don't step too far outside the lines of normal. But there is no normal. There are only parameters created by society. We are told we have to have a work self, a family self, a friend self, a partner self, and so on. I'll let you in on a little secret, though. Those are all the same person. You cannot check your humanity at the door of your organization, and your company should not expect that of you. We do our best work when we are given the space and the safety to exist wholly in our identities, our quirks, and our experiences. We must ask ourselves what makes us feel happy and safe, and then regularly edit our lives to reflect our needs, desires, and safety. When you aim to make everyone happy, not only will you end up exhausted, but you will remain in environments that no longer serve you. Too often we stay at jobs or in relationships with people who do not truly see us, because we are unwilling to ruffle feathers or to make others uncomfortable. But the only people offended by your true self are the ones who benefit when who you really are is hidden. This book will challenge you to think differently about what being yourself at work looks like. It will take you outside your comfort zone and allow you to examine what authenticity really means and what it means to you. It will help you decide how much of yourself you want to share at work, so you can take back control of who you are. The real you. There is joy in finding the power of self. There will be heartwarming hellos, laughs that fill your belly, reintroductions that fill your heart. There will be days you look in the mirror, proud that you get to come home to yourself, proud to call yourself by your name, proud to stand firm on the things you want for your life. Stepping into your most authentic self is not without challenge. Learning to show up as the real you will come with hard conversations, with yourself and others. Too often, people love the picture of you they have created in their minds, not the actual person standing in front of them. There will be those who do not accompany you on this part of your journey. There will be those who refuse to see you, no matter how vibrantly you show up. There will be those who claim to love you, when in reality, they love only the idea of you. There will be painful goodbyes, and you will grieve them. And you will likely grieve the parts of yourself that you let go, because you use them as a shield. I spent over 2 decades trying to cater to the happiness of others, dancing softly around the things about myself that made them uncomfortable. I put everyone's comfort ahead of my own. I valued how others perceived me more than how I perceived myself. But authenticity is not about how you show up for others. It's about how you show up for you. You are the tour guide in the journey that is your life. Make it worth exploring. In his book, The Creative Act, Grammy Award-winning producer Rick Rubin writes, "Expressing oneself in the world and creativity are the same. It may not be possible to know who you are without somehow expressing it. It is impossible to truly know who you are at your most authentic without leaving yourself the space to show up for you. The greatest expression of authenticity is honoring yourself for exactly who you are, the things you want, and the people you love, without shame and without doubting the power of your own voice. As we navigate life, we will be asked to shrink or expand depending on the audience. I encourage you to make yourself your audience instead. Instead of trying to make everyone happy, make yourself happy. In a world that is begging you to be anyone but yourself, being exactly who you are is your strength." Want more from Madison Butler on authenticity at work? Watch the video, Christine vs. Work. What does just be yourself really look like at work? At hbr.org. Section 1. Understanding the Authentic You. 1. Getting Comfortable Being Yourself at Work. By Long Gwen Chaplin. I'm a business professor who has visible tattoos, 7 earrings, and on any given week, purple, blue, or pink hair. I come into work later than others and leave early to pick up my kids. I take Zoom calls in a hoodie in my backyard. During the past few years, there's been a lot of talk about what it means to be professional while presenting authentically. There's also been a lot of encouragement around bringing our full selves to our jobs. We're all aware of the benefits of being yourself at work. More life satisfaction, greater well-being, and higher levels of motivation, performance, and productivity. Typically, though, being yourself while being taken seriously is easier said than done. This is especially true when you're just starting out in your career or when you're new to an organization. You haven't established your credibility, nor have you connected with those around you. You want to belong, but you don't know how. You're still trying to read the company culture. I understand the dilemma. I haven't always felt so liberated in my appearance. More often, I've been a people pleaser. Out of fear of disappointing others or falling short of expectations, I've had a hard time setting boundaries around my personal and professional identities. It took me over a decade to blend the two in a way that I'm proud of and that represents who I am. The best timeline for you in this respect is always going to be the one that feels right and safe. Don't feel pressured by the things you read online about why first impressions matter, or why you have 90 days to establish your entire reputation. Authenticity is more about how you feel in this moment of your life, and what you'll do to honor that identity. Here's what I've learned throughout my journey, and what you can do to get more comfortable in your own. Convince yourself that you belong in the room. Whether you're just beginning your career or are changing roles, you're starting from scratch every time you meet new people. In these situations, you want to figure out which aspects of your background are exciting for you to spotlight and qualify you to be there. When you believe that you have something valuable to contribute, you'll feel more confident speaking and showing up authentically, and your fear of judgment will naturally dampen. Why? Because you'll be focused on what really matters, using your unique knowledge and experience to make an impact. If you aren't convinced that you deserve to be in the room, how can you expect anyone else to be? Here's how to get started. Identify what you have to offer. Don't just have a general mantra of, "I belong at the table." Take the time to create a thoughtful list of how and why you belong. Start paying attention to what makes you, you. Your background, talents, beliefs, and values. These are your strengths, and they will set you apart if you're willing to share them. One question you can ask yourself: what is the organization missing when I'm not present? Write down your answers, including the results of the work you contribute. As you brainstorm, be clear with yourself about the advantage you and your skills bring to your team. If you're not contributing value, no one is interested in how passionate you are about your job, or how late you log off every night. For example, maybe you recognize that your experience as a multicultural and multilingual first-generation professional is your secret sauce. Because of your background, you are uniquely qualified to help your organization honor its public-facing commitments to diversity, and your input offers a competitive advantage to teams trying to tap into international markets. Maybe you're the go-to person for things that allow your team to run efficiently, the reliable colleague who always replies with thoughtful feedback, the peer who can easily weave together polarizing ideas, or the rising leader who isn't afraid to ask why. Don't make the mistake of thinking the things that come naturally to you are easy, and therefore unimportant skills. Consider that your expertise is likely part of why you were hired. It's one of many things that your organization needs to drive value. And don't assume that coming straight out of college means you don't have enough experience to contribute. You can bring a fresh viewpoint to new and old problems, and ask questions that pinpoint issues your more seasoned colleagues haven't considered or are less able to see. Demonstrate gravitas. In the room itself, you need to have the confidence and credibility to capture the attention of your peers or seniors and create interest in what you have to say. When you can command an audience with your presence, people will take your voice seriously and want to know more. Gravitas combines authenticity and clarity. For instance, when you speak up in a meeting, be clear about where your idea comes from, why it's important to you, what it offers the business, and what hard evidence supports it. On a deeper level, empathize with those who ask you questions, and try to view your colleagues as humans to connect with, not people to conduct transactions with. This mindset will help you come across as outwardly authentic. Pro tip: once you know what you offer, schedule informal coffee chats or lunches with influential people throughout the company who you hold in high esteem. Seek out people who are open-minded and who have shown you, or others, allyship and support. In my experience, this is a good way to become known to peers and superiors, and to make your ideas and contributions visible. The more relationships you develop, the more welcome you'll feel. Find your voice, and be vulnerable. While you may want to appear faultless to gain the respect of others, especially as the new person, your imperfections are ultimately what will draw people in. You need to be vulnerable to build meaningful relationships at work. But finding your style, your unique way of expressing your humanness, is going to take some trial and error. As an example, when I started my career as a professor, I met with a colleague who was loved by his students. We'll call him Jensen. I wanted to know how he did it. He told me that he connects with students by cracking jokes. That was his secret sauce, and I wanted to emulate it. The problem was, I tend to be more serious than funny. Jensen was a brilliant, charismatic, and witty academic with 20 years of experience. I, on the other hand, was just a few years older than, or the same age as my students, and I was too nervous to feel anything except my heart racing when I stepped into the lecture hall. How would I ever succeed? It took me a while to realize that what humor did for Jensen, compassion did for me. Similarly, it's going to take you time to figure out how to express your vulnerability at the right time to the right people. Once you do, though, it can be a great way to make connections and build the foundation of trust that will make you feel more comfortable showing up authentically at work. To begin, I recommend starting small. Share something low stakes with a team member. Choose someone you'd like to build a more meaningful work relationship with and make it personal. For example, tell them a story about your weekend or a hobby you're getting into. Listen and look for cues on how they respond. Is their reaction positive? Are they willing to share something in exchange? Does the conversation make you feel positive and energized? If so, the relationship has potential. The key here is learning how to read a room, as well as yourself. Through several small interactions, you'll learn to better understand your audience, your own comfort level, and how you and others react to different types of information. Consider the context. This includes the who, what, when, where, and why of the situation. Before sharing something more personal or higher stakes with a coworker, consider the intention behind your words. I've shared stories about forgetting to pick up my kids at school, being mistaken for the caterer at a meeting with top leaders, and being a no-show on Zoom calls because I was operating in the wrong time zone. My intention was never to share some brilliant insight or life lesson. It was to humanize myself in front of an audience that saw me as a role model. So, consider the details of the situation. Are you looking for support? Are you aiming to build a friendship? Are you trying to tell a funny story that will make your colleague laugh, and in turn, build a stronger connection between the two of you? Are you trying to relate to the other person with compassion? Have their reactions made you feel safe in the past? Do they tend to ask others about their personal interests and families? Do they talk about their personal interests and family? Do you trust this person? What feels natural for you to share? Taking a moment to reflect before sharing will help you see the outcomes you want and avoid opening up to people who make you feel uncomfortable or don't appreciate your vulnerability. Pro tip: being vulnerable is letting your guard down just enough to allow others to feel human along with you. Your intention should be to build trust and to help your audience feel inspired. Don't be afraid to experiment a bit. Draw inspiration from others and figure out which kinds of vulnerability feel good and which don't. Set boundaries to avoid oversharing. Acting in ways that reflect your honest beliefs, emotions, and values may be one of the strongest predictors of well-being. At the same time, it's important to recognize that there is a certain time, place, and audience required for you to safely share those parts of yourself. It's possible to be yourself at work even if you don't publicly disclose every single thought or emotion to your team members. In fact, it's healthy to have boundaries, and it's natural to want to keep some things private. So don't mistake vulnerability for oversharing. You won't be any closer to being authentic than the person who says nothing at all. Your boundaries are based on your unique needs and wants. They are rules, created by you, that indicate what you will accept and what you will not, including how you want to be treated by others and show up at work. What and how much you feel comfortable sharing varies from person to person. To figure out what's right for you, use this two-step exercise. On a piece of paper, create 2 columns. On one side, write down your values and needs that must never be violated or compromised, your non-negotiables. On the other side, write down the things that bring you happiness but aren't an immediate priority. You may, for example, want to establish a better work-life balance, but be willing to compromise on or work toward that goal over time, making it a negotiable. Feeling safe enough to share your racial, sexual, or gender identity, however, may be a non-negotiable. As you fill out your columns, you may find that some of your answers are nuanced. For instance, inclusion, being able to share your identity or present authentically, may be a non-negotiable, and privacy, having the autonomy to decide when and with whom you share, may be as well. Write a personal philosophy. Are there any patterns in the thoughts, words, ideas, and actions you wrote down? Use these to come up with a short list of core values. For example, inclusion, family, morality, integrity, and write down why they are important to you, how you practice them, and how they influence your goals. We'll go more into defining your values in the next chapter. Now, use what you've written to come up with a short personal philosophy or a motto that feels undeniably true to you. My personal philosophy is, I'm not for everyone, and not everyone is for me. I choose to live a life with integrity. In moments of self-consciousness, small or large, I come back to it to remind myself of who I am and check my integrity. If I'm living my truth, then I let the panic go. My philosophy acts as a guide for my words and behaviors, and helps me recognize when a boundary needs to be set or has been crossed. Your philosophy can similarly help you enter the workplace with confidence and recover when you feel your integrity or sense of self is being challenged. Pro tip: sometimes you may share something that you wish you hadn't. Give yourself some grace. It's going to take a little trial and error to figure out your boundaries, as well as other people's. In all situations, listen to your instincts. The sooner you and your colleagues can establish what behaviors you find okay versus not okay, the sooner everyone will know where they stand. Feelings of hurt, confusion, and frustration can be minimized. For example, if you gauge that a team member may be uncomfortable hearing about your personal life, or if you decide that you feel uncomfortable sharing, there are ways to be honest while protecting boundaries and privacy for both of you. In these cases, a simple and honest statement will let people know what you need without oversharing. I'm having a hard time with all the demands in my life, and I won't be able to respond to emails after 5 p.m. Practice deep listening. It's often tempting to say things and act in ways that you think might make a good impression, even if it camouflages the real you. For instance, how many times have you tried to appear agreeable during a meeting because it's what the boss wanted to see? In these moments, I encourage you to pause and practice listening instead of reacting. When you listen deeply, you allow yourself to be silent. Silence allows you to declutter your thought process, be present, reflect, and make an honest contribution to whatever is being discussed. You are helping yourself be more authentic by processing the other person's words with an open mind, reading between the lines, and appreciating body language, cadence, and tone to gain a richer understanding of their words. Whether or not you agree with those words, you're showing the speaker that they matter, and you're giving the person the time and space to be themselves. A respectful coworker will reciprocate and empower you to communicate your authentic self as well. To put this into action, prioritize the following. Keep an open mind. Craft a couple of go-to questions that will help you listen with interest, especially in high-stakes situations when you may feel pressure to react or make an immediate contribution. For example, you might try, "Can you explain what you mean by X?" Or, "When would this not work, and why?" When the person speaking responds, listen intently. You can even write down notes to help you better digest and understand people's ideas, then follow up one-on-one. This practice can help you develop the confidence to speak your truth, connect with others on a deeper level, and decrease any feelings of isolation you may be going through as the new person. Create a time and space for important conversations. During private meetings with colleagues, put away your phone, listen, and observe nonverbal cues like posture, eye contact, and facial expressions. Aim to understand the other person's emotions about the topic. The simple act of being present will ground you and give you the time and space to process what you're hearing and react more authentically. Pro tip: Deep listening is a skill that takes time to develop, but the more you do it, the better you'll get. As you practice, try repeating the other person's words back to them before you respond. "This is what I'm hearing from you." It will make them feel seen and heard, while giving you extra time to process their perspective. Similarly, rather than planning a response while the other person is speaking, buy yourself time by asking for clarification. "What did you mean by X?" Becoming true to yourself is a lifelong journey, one that will evolve and change over time as you learn more about your character and core values. My biggest piece of advice is to give yourself the gift of self-acceptance and cheer for others. The right people will reciprocate. When you can bring your whole self to work, you have a real chance to thrive and flourish. Quick recap. Being yourself at work is easier said than done. Here are some ways to get more comfortable showing up authentically. Create a list of how and why you belong. Pay attention to what makes you, you. Your background, talents, beliefs, and values. Find your voice. Consider the intention behind your words. You'll be able to see the outcomes you want and avoid opening up to those who make you feel uncomfortable. Set boundaries to avoid oversharing. You can be yourself even if you don't disclose every thought or emotion. Practice deep listening. Use the silence to declutter your thought process. Be present, reflect, and make an honest contribution. 2. How to find, define, and use your values. By Irina Kozma. What are your values? As a career coach, when I ask my clients this question, I usually get one of two answers. They either say, "I've never actually thought about that," or, "Oh, easy, these are my values." After more conversations, the first group often realizes that they do have some ideas about their values, and the second group realizes that their values are mostly just a list of words without substance. Both reactions are valid. It's not easy to have clarity around your values. After all, the importance of identifying and using them isn't emphasized in our society. Most of us aren't taught how to do this type of self-reflection in school. You likely won't be asked to identify your values for any job, and your employer will probably never base your annual performance reviews on them. That doesn't mean finding, defining, and knowing how to use your values isn't important. There is so much power in understanding what your values are. They can help you make decisions, guide your career, and even live a happier life. The following steps can guide you through thinking about your values in an intentional way. Step 1. Find your values. Your values aren't hiding. Even if you haven't articulated them, they're a reflection of the most important aspects of your life. Here's how to pull those ideas to the forefront. Reflect on what's important to you. Values is just a label we use for the things that are important to us. Ask yourself, what do I care about most in the world? Make a list with as many things as you can think of. Your list should reflect what is important and personal to you, not what others, family, friends, peers, may expect from you. Honesty is critical at this stage. Try to sum up your ideas in as few words as possible. You'll expand and further define your values later. Some examples may include family, money, comfort, friends, career, time, freedom, optimism. Review the list and pick your top 3 values. You're probably thinking, but they're all important. While that might be true, some values are certainly more important to you than others. Again, honesty is key. If you're struggling to select 3, you can choose 2 or 4 values instead. The number isn't important. The intent here is to keep the list as short as possible. Rank your values. Once you have your top values, reflect on whether they have equal meaning to you, or if you're able to rank them. There is no right or wrong approach here, but your answer should tell you something about how important these different elements are in your life. This isn't a one-time exercise. You might need a couple of weeks or months to stabilize your top values. Take the time to reflect.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?